All right, guys, so steady run today, 10 miles. You've heard about it, zone 2. Everyone's into it. Fat oxidation to its limit. I've just done 10 mile, 57 minutes, 30 seconds. It's less about the speed and it's more about sitting in that heart rate zone that's going to give me the maximum benefits for that fat oxidation. So let's roll the intro. All right, guys, so this is the big popular thing right now. This is the zone 2 running that everyone's really trying to get into. Today, what I'm going to do is about 10 to 12 miles around that sort of zone 2 area. One of the things that you're going to notice with me doing zone 2 is that it's going to seem quite quick and quick relevant to, yes, my results, but also probably just quick to what you're used to running to. But the key to zone 2 is the zone and area that you're running in, which is your maximum fat oxidation area. And so where I really want you to tread carefully when you're watching this video and when you're thinking about how you could start incorporating some of this stuff into what you do is bearing in mind that developing that fat oxidation area happens over years and years and years. And so right now I'm probably sitting at year 20 as a runner. And so yes, I can go out and run at 6-minute mile pace, 550 per mile, 340 to 345 per K. But that doesn't mean that you need to calculate your fat oxidation or your zone 2 area based on what I'm doing or my marathon pace. My marathon pace is 455 to 5 minutes per mile, 305 to probably 310 per K. So when you're doing the calculations, don't start thinking that because I'm running at X percentage of my marathon pace or X percent slower than my marathon pace, that's how you're going to work out your fat oxidation area or your zone 2 area. Zone 2 training is huge because what you're doing is teaching your mitochondria to get much better at moving energy and using fat as fuel. So mitochondrial function is using energy, pushing oxygen and or muscle glucose and glycogen around the body. You want that to be in a really good place. This is something that you develop over time, but what you might find is that you need to run really slow right now in order to be working on this fat oxidation area. I can go out and run at a steady pace for 10 to 12 miles. What you might want to do is be looking to do, let's say, 7 miles, 8 miles, 10 miles, starting at probably even 6. But what I would suggest you do is you really do this as a progression run. If you're not going to go in the lab and if you're not going to get tested to get your fat oxidation zone or your zone 2 run, well then start at a very, very easy effort so you're almost guaranteed to still be using fat as fuel and then progress that effort as you go along. So I'm going to crack on with my run right now and then we'll talk about it when I'm done and hopefully it goes well. As you can see in Belfast, well you might not be able to, a little bit windy, a little bit of wet, but we'll get it done. All right, so that's job done. It was 10 miles. 5 miles up the towpath that way, 5 miles back. We're really lucky here in Belfast that you've got enough shelter from wind, rain, etc. that you can get the job done. We're on probably storm number 5. Don't know where you are in the world right now. I've seen a few people in America, quite a lot of snow. It can be a pain in the ass. Luckily here, that's pretty sheltered, a lot of debris on the ground, but lovely, lovely location today for training. Not the best weather, so I'll try to be as quick as I can with this just to get myself some fresh gear on. There's a bit of a tip there. When you do finish, it's trying to get a warm t-shirt on as quickly as you can, plus some fuel on board for recovery. Heaps more tips on the website at Jogging Room. Anyway, let's get back to today's business. Zone 2, why are people raving about zone 2? In running, the more you can train that fat oxidation area, the better. You're saving glycogen. One of the biggest limitations in running is that you just run out of fuel, just like your car running out of fuel. Your body has way more fat reserves than it does glycogen reserves. So if you can start to train the body to use that fat as fuel, of course, in anything that you're doing, whether it's an easy run, whether it's a marathon, you would love to be able to use part fat as fuel and part glycogen. The more you train that system to be able to run quicker at using the fat as fuel, you save the glycogen reserves and you run faster. My tips for this sort of stuff, I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of YouTube videos. There's a very good cycling coach called Inigo San Milan. He talks about you need to be doing at least three 45-minute sessions per week where you're working in this zone. It's very difficult to test this zone unless you go in the lab and get it tested. I would heavily recommend that test every single day. Really important. Once you have the zones, especially the heart rate numbers, it doesn't really change over time. They come down a little bit as you get fitter, but actually some of my tests from years and years ago are still kind of the same now in terms of the heart rate numbers. Of course, what has changed is the speed, but the speed isn't what's important out there today. It's sitting in that heart rate zone and working at the right intensity. So if you're not going to do a test like that, the next best thing is probably to do about 60 minutes of exercise. And what you want to be doing is operating at not a slow jog, but getting yourself moving, getting the body moving, working at a pace that feels very comfortable, because at the start, this isn't going to be in a good place. Your speed at zone 2, your speed at that fat oxidation area, it's not going to be in a great place until you start to train it, until you start to work on it. So 3 45 to 60-minute sessions per week is going to be enough to develop it. I'm now at the point where I probably have to do 4, but it doesn't mean that I have to dedicate a full session just to zone 2 steady. What I do have to do is make sure that I do at least 45 minutes in that sort of zone 2 heart rate range, which for me sits between 140 to 150 heart rate, which I was pretty disciplined with today, even though it's got a much better pace than what it was about a month ago, but that's for another video. Pace was not important today. But what you're looking at is combining it with sessions. So don't be afraid to maybe do, if you're training for a marathon or maybe you're doing your long run on a Sunday, don't be afraid to include a portion, 45 minutes to 60 minutes, where what you might do is, if I'm cycling, and I don't cycle a lot, so I'm underdeveloped in cycling, I do like 5 to 7 minute sort of stages, and then after 5 to 7 minutes I back off for 2 minutes, which allows the heart rate to calm down a little bit, and it also probably allows me to stay in that sort of zone 2 area. So when you're running, let's say you're going to do 60 minutes or 45 minutes, don't be afraid to do it in 5-minute blocks where you're kind of like, this is kind of like 5 minutes at that zone 2. It's not quite that easy effort, but we're not quite into marathon-y effort yet. We're just kind of in the middle ground. And then after 5 minutes, back off a little bit, slow it down, maybe for a minute, little bit of a jog, let everything reset, and then get going again. You're protecting yourself from moving into another zone. Bank your 45 minutes of total time and move on. I hope you enjoyed that video. Start to incorporate this stuff into your training. You're going to see massive benefits, and I really hope that you're patient with it. You allow it to develop at the rate that it's going to develop, and trust me, it will pay off. Check out the Running School, like, subscribe, do all those lovely things, and take care.